Alderman Donovan, you make a point in here that too few people make. You talk about older blacks in Milwaukee, and I think this is going on across the country, scared of their own children and grandchildren, and I think that's a good point because government programs cannot replace the family. They cannot replace discipline. They cannot replace role models. The problems, as you point out, I think quite accurately, are from within the black community, but more importantly, as you said as we were going to break, we have to stop being unwilling to say what we all know to be true because the real loser out of this is young black kids.
Well, absolutely right. And what's most disappointing to me is to this day we have many elected leaders here in Milwaukee and other so-called leaders within the African-American community that just are simply unwilling to admit that this problem exists. And you can't begin to address any problem without first admitting you've got one. And that's what myself and Alderman Dudzik felt important that we get that message out and let the chips fall where they may. But it's time that this be said.
I read a book years ago by the mayor of Milwaukee, and I can't remember his name. It was a bestseller, and it was about the education system there. And there were a lot of reforms that he supposedly put into place, and they were designed to deal with a lack of educational standards and a lot of these problems. Is Milwaukee getting better or worse, Alderman Donovan?
Well, sadly, I think you're referring to Mayor Norquist at the time, who was very supportive of educational changes. The school choice program really took off underneath his tenure. Milwaukee's a great community. Michael, I've lived my entire life here. I love the city of Milwaukee. Yet at the same time, what's most frustrating to me is I believe over the last decade or more, we have stagnated at best and we've lost ground at worst. And I until we can address these problems, I see Milwaukee, unfortunately, becoming a poorer and poorer community. We've got to get these issues under wraps and have some meaningful changes to our educational system, our public safety. We've seen improvements to some extent there, but again, a lot of the politics that's being played in this community is hurting Milwaukee, in my opinion.
Wow. 7 officers wounded, a number of citizens wounded, a number of the thugs rounded up. Let me ask you, if I could, Alderman Bob Donovan from City of Milwaukee, to turn your attention. I was reading this weekend, I believe the 3 Republican recall seats are up tomorrow. Is that right?
That's accurate, yes.
We have the nation watched the reforms that took place there when your governor came in with the mandate to cut back. You had some union problems. You had some spending problems. I think one of the Democrats has already held on to his seat. The 3 Republicans tomorrow, and then coming up, I think you have 2 Democrats. Do you expect? I think it's 19-14 the Republicans, so the Democrats have to win 3 of those seats. Do you expect Republicans to hold on to control of the Senate?
I believe the elections are going to be very, very close, and it's just unprecedented, the outside money that's come in on both sides of these issues. But I do believe that in the final analysis, the Republicans will hold on to control of the Senate.
And that means that the reforms that have been put into place under this governor would be expected to stand. I read, I think it was $30 million in outside money is expected to pour into these remaining 5 recall seats as a result of the reforms that took place. I'll tell you, I hope for the future of Wisconsin, and as somebody that might have to bail the state out, that their reforms do take place because they're long overdue.
Well, absolutely. It's gotten to the point there's been so much money spent on this, Michael. I'm hearing from everyone they wish the election was last week. The commercials are driving everyone nuts.
Right.
So I think people are willing or ready to cast their vote, and I hope for the sake of the state of Wisconsin and and Milwaukee that things go the right way.
Alderman Bob Donovan, I have to tell you, when I read your headline, "We're reaping the harvest we've sown," and the candor with which you talk about real problems and fears in your community, it did my heart good. Thanks for being a voice of reason, sir.
Well, thank you, Michael. I enjoyed talking with you.
Yes, sir. City of Milwaukee Alderman Bob Donovan. Wow. That story has not received the attention in the mainstream media that it deserves. Unfortunately, I think it's a harbinger of things to come. You cannot tell young black men over and over again in rap music, in movies, from the pulpit, and from the mouths of teachers and Democratic politicians that white people are the reason they have no daddy, that white people are the reason that they have to join a gang to keep from being battered by one, that white people are the reason that their schools are terrible, that white people are the reason that there's nobody at home when they get through with school. You can tell them that, and sadly, they're kids. They don't know any better. But then the bill comes due, and these poor, confused young people. It's sad. It's sad. What's probably even more sad is that too few people in the media and in politics and in life are willing to say what we all know to be true. Because apparently we don't care enough about young black children to bust up this problem. We don't care enough to agree to be attacked by the people who are perpetuating the problem. And sadly, this problem is being covered up and perpetuated by the very people who claim to be helping to solve it. And those of us who do try to do something get called nasty names. Doesn't matter to me. You're listening to The Michael Berry Show.